And we're live, and want to report a success because and I'm speaking to people that mostly, how do I say this? You understand anyone that's been on pain meds, they know, especially if you're taking them like for legit purposes and you've been through the ups and downs of that, then you know that usually in the morning time is when there's a certain time that usually every morning, if it's been since the day before that you've taken a dose, then what ends up happening is, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I could always tell in the mornings when I woke up when my body would start to, the pain would like crank up because number one, it's a new day and it's been however long since you've taken your last dose or whatever. So your body is like a craving. Uh, Most people can tell when they're going into withdrawal, um, because it's a distinct sensation. The body's literal autonomic nervous system and other regulation like the temperature, different things go into the extremes because there is all these abundant synthetic receptors that aren't being fed, and so it creates stress. And the only way it knows how to compensate is by, it goes into the state that people know as withdrawal or detox, and it's because it's having to crudely overcorrect for the lack of well, just simply because of the fact of where the body's at once it gets to that point. So I didn't take, usually by about 8 a.m., I'd start to feel chillish and start to feel like I'm getting the goosebumps. And it would be like that around 8 or at the latest 9, 9:30. That's what was the usual for me. Even just taking the medicine the right way, I still got that feeling. So what I did was it's been since not yesterday morning, but like the last um in the wee hours about it's probably yesterday at about 4 o'clock in the morning. I took the dose that I took yesterday, and that was the last time I took a full and like a little bitty half of a small third. and and then the next, or well, the day before, and then so yesterday, I mean to say, was the first time that I just took one, and I made it all the time. I've made it since from that time in the morning till this morning, which I woke up around the same time I usually did, and then I went to sleep again, and then I woke up at 8 something. Uh, After I was live earlier looking at books, I went back to sleep for a small nap and woke up again just a while ago, and about an hour ago, and I took just one strip. And so if I go through today and make it till the next day and take just one strip again, then my body's fully down to one strip as I expected it did. Uh, like I said, the last, because it's been about 48 hours now since I've taken more than one strip, and the only thing I was at was basically imagine a strip folded into thirds, that third piece, and then half of that third. That's what I'd gotten it down to. And so the way I'll probably start doing this is I'll cement it and I'll keep taking one strip for the rest of this week. And then starting next week is when I'm gonna start cutting. Um, I'll fold it into thirds, take the first third off, and then cut a small part of it from the top, and then take that, and that's how I'll do it. And so yeah. Anyways, it's going all right. I hope everyone else is doing all right. I think I'm gonna play. I didn't nod out. I didn't nod out a couple hours ago. I am not a junkie. What are you talk? Do you understand you're a junkie? I'm literally talking about getting off. No, I don't understand that. Fucking not naughty. Sure. Yeah. Moses. Yeah. You got one. Do I talk like Durkee? Let me say, because Moses, you've covered Durkee, right? Have you ever seen me get on here and say something like, yeah, Durkee did in that documentary? Like, you get pills and this and that. There ain't no death rattle, dude. When you guys met me, I was taking so much for my pain medicine and everything else, and now I'm actually going the natural route, the route that some people suggested. Not that I didn't know about it, because it wasn't the first time I was suggested that. I was suggested that by my person that I used to get my formulas from before he passed away, that taught me everything I need to know about health and exercise. I'm Durkee Jr. Yeah, okay. I tell you what, let me ask you something. I've never lived in a trailer. I don't come from a trailer. I didn't have a girlfriend or ever been with anyone that's got a OnlyFans, unless it was somebody I used to date. And now, since we've not dated, they've got a OnlyFans. How am I anything like him? I don't live with my mommy. My mom's dead. Um, I never lived with my mom like that. I actually do stuff around the house for my grandfather, take the trash out, different things. I don't know what the fuck Durkee does, if any. I don't walk around on camera with my shirt off to try to make myself seem like I'm fucking some big badass. How the hell do you get any parallels or comparisons to Durkee? Junk box in a twin bed with Grampy. All right, I need you to tell me something, Moses. Tell me how many inches a twin bed is in the width and length, the dimensions. And what I'll do is I'm gonna fucking like get a ruler measuring tape. I'm gonna get on here. I'm gonna measure my bed on my mobile camera so that you guys can see me do it. And I'm gonna show you this fucking thing is not a fucking twin bed. How many fucking times does a fucking person have to tell you? I shook my pill bottle months ago because it antagonized those folks who have acted like going at Durkee is their thing. JM's been talking about and reminiscing on missing his pills and everything like that. Like, you ain't heard me shake shit and do it like seriously, like, oh yeah, listen to them. Okay, so I've said something similar to what someone else has said. Do you not think you haven't either? Why don't I find somebody who said something similar to you and I'll just call you whatever Junior, or I'll call them Moses Heaps Junior. You know, I mean that's about the logic you're extending to that. You realize that? No, I'm great that Moses is here. So tell me, Moses, how you took down the great Carolina Rebel. Just don't start playing with guns again. Boy, I never play with guns, and you can kiss my ass. As far as y'all concerned, y'all are privileged to know that information, that situation. You're privileged, and you just happen to. I was coming online around the time, right before that it happened, and afterwards, so you guys got to look it up and stuff. But you guys are really butthurt because you know that the fucking charges got dropped. You're mad that they didn't fucking stick. You're mad that I'm not a felon. You're mad that I do have my fucking gun rights intact. And you're fucking mad there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. Other than fucking maybe get the fucking sheriff on the phone because he's worried that there's people fucking watching or whatever. And, you know, he thinks whatever the fuck he thinks. So you guys maybe get him to say to this other FFL guy that, oh, well, yeah, I won't issue him a CCW. He don't fucking have to, you know. I mean, you don't need one. So I mean, that's kind of for going outside the state lines, anyways. You don't own Rebel, and Filthy don't own me. I tell you what. How about this, Moses? Since y'all want to assert that, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start a countdown, if you will. One day, you guys will still see the channels up here and everything, and I'll have uploaded content and stuff. I'm still gonna finish some things I plan to do, and then what I'm gonna do is that I'm just randomly just gonna walk away. I'm not gonna announce it. I'm not going to say it because every time I say it, I have the bad luck, the curse of not doing. I think, and the fact that it's happened with Johnny, it happens with Durkee and other people. It's even happened with people in y'all's community. You just don't fucking like to put any damn spotlight on it, like MC and such. Anyways, it's just a common thing that happens on here. People get what's that word, burned out and stuff, and so I think what I'm gonna do to prove that you fuckers don't own me is I'm just gonna walk away. And if I walk away and I'm off doing somewhere else in cyberspace and you can't find me, and that's the ultimate fucking because then I've eluded you. So nod out, countdown. All right, hold on. Three, two, one. Let's re term it. Sleep countdown. Three, two, one. So let me say, if I snore like that, you think that's a death rattle? Let me do it again. Is that what y'all's death rattle sounds like? You ain't coming to get no dog. I ain't saying it. I'm not announcing it right now. I'm just saying what if. So we'll just see, all right? Don't get your panties in a wad. I know you get excited whenever I say something like that, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what if, you know. So we'll see, won't we? You're coming to get so you're threatening that you're gonna steal my service dog because he's a service dog in training. So, you realize that's a fucking crime. You can't steal my dog. If you tried to take my dog, or if anyone came to my house and tried to do an invasion of any type or broke in, I'd be well within my right to knock you out, subdue you, whatever I have to do. You're not stealing anything of mine. It's not even happening. And we both know it. We both know that you're just talking shit over the internet right now. All of you tough guys are, especially Moses. He's the biggest tough guy of them all. I guess because now Durkee has taken a leave of absence and Uh, Johnny's not really on much either, or so many people are going at him. So now I got Moses looking at me. Like, Moses, why don't you just fucking, I don't know, dude. I'm not rebel. Uh, you're not gonna get any videos of me going beep, 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 cussing every other word. I can actually use vocabulary. Uh, I ain't got nothing against people that do cuss. Some people just like talking like that. Turkey and Rebels, two people I guess that do. And the only reason I bring that up is because you fucking have made fun of them. You're not gonna be able to make fun of me like that. Um, I think what you guys did and Filthy did with Doc's and Rebel's girlfriend and everything. I mean, that was pretty shitty. I mean, for people that are supposedly against Doc's and likes to call out people for Doc's and your friends and people that you don't want exposed. I mean, that's some hypocritical shit right there, man. Don't you realize that? You can't be friends with a guy like Filthy Animal whose videos are literally fucking docs and documentaries and be like, oh, that guy's doxing. He bad. You know, he bad because he doxing. I'll tell you what, why don't you go to a dispensary, Moses, and get you some good old member OG like I got right now. That'll fucking help you out. It'll help calm down your stress because we know you got stress. Uh, you know, let us know whenever, because I know that you've secretly this whole time been working to try to get Rick. I know you like Rick, you know, Moses, everybody sees that. Like, you don't just like Rick, you like her, you know. Welcome to the Moses and Rick show. Why ain't it the Rick and Moses show? There's the Moses and Rick show, or do you alternate it? Is it a true 50-50 partnership? Is she an equal? Or are you the one that's getting the shaft? Somebody's getting the shaft. Shaft into the stick. Yeah. I tell you what, Moses. Uh, make a deal with you. If you can find anything that shows at all in any close way, and I mean something like it, I don't mean something sloppy now. I'm talking about if you can find anything at all that parallels like the charges that Durkee's had or lifestyle. If you can find any legit similar comparisons, you let me know. Hell, put them in a video if you want to. But I'll tell you this, you being friends with people who have called me a diddler, an abuser, and everything else with no proof, no hardcore testimony or anything from any supposed abuse, nothing whatsoever other than speculation and conjecture. That just makes you look bad. And if you get involved in it, you're just as bad, just like Naughty is. Like, so Naughty, what it was, let me get this straight. Somebody had talked big and bad about your your idol I guess TTT. Incel logic, they must like each other if they're opposite sex. No, it's not incel logic. It's me trying to go at Moses. I'm just fucking jacking his chain. I don't necessarily think him. Actually, Rick wouldn't like Moses because just like I figured when I said at the ladder was Rick probably runs the show, and she does. Um, I didn't. Incel. Well, we know who that must be. It must be somebody like MC or somebody using that word. Moses is a piece of shit. Uh, I can drive anywhere I want to on my own. I have a license. I have insurance. I don't have my own vehicle still at the moment because I'm not rushing to buy just any fucking used fucking car with the little bit of fucking money I have. I'm gonna make sure I get something good. I'm not in any rush to have a fucking vehicle, especially when I work from home for Christ's fucking sake. I don't have to. All I have to do is just all I gotta do is pick out what hours I'm gonna work on each day, which I do, and I switch it up because I know sometimes I stay up late or I'm gonna sleep in. So what I do one day is not what I do every single day. That's the great thing about that gig is I don't have to have a set schedule. I can literally have a custom schedule every day, each day. I'm not revealing what it is. I mean, it's something that, you know, basically it has to do with some type of marketing, I'll put it that way. And when I worked for Collegiate, I did something very similar. The only difference was I had to deal with fucking college football. Well, high school football, college football. Actually, I have been very regular, even though that's kind of TMI. It's none of your business. I've been very regular. So, you know, when you go into withdrawals hard and fast and do it abruptly, that can cause, like, shits or diarrhea and stuff. And I still may have, some of that trouble. I don't know once I get down to 4 milligrams, which won't be long now. Um, I'm just glad that I'm at the point that I'm at, and I got two strips left of this box, and then I've got a whole nother box still yet to open. So I literally have, if I wanted to take one strip each day for 30 days, I could do that. Or if I want to take one strip as I'm started and gotten down to, and I want to lower that and eliminate it out. I've got 30 fucking days worth plus, you know, give or take 31 or two to do it. Uh, same with the Ativan. I haven't even taken a dose of Ativan yet today since yesterday. That's fucking amazing because usually I wake up early and, you know, I get shaky like early on and I would take my first one then. Why don't you ask yourself something, Moses, and all you fucking people that think that you've made me out to be this big bad or drug junkie, fuck whatever. Did you ever stop and consider maybe why I'm going out my way to do what I'm doing and to document it on here. I'm proving you wrong, slowly but surely, each and every day, each and every live. You may still view on your own or in your group conscious that I'm a quote, quotation marks, locale, but does a locale who you say is hell bent and stuck in this and that get unstuck within 2 months? Does a locale have control over themselves as much as I've been exuding lately? See, that's the things you people didn't understand about Square. Is it not only can Square change if he needs to or wants to, it's part of his life purpose to go through changes. You know, karmically speaking, learning how to walk a uh, now I've never shared this before, I don't think, so I will. And I don't really know how much, if I believe or put stock into what I'm going to share, but it's interesting. It was a report that went over my past life karma. And it came from a publication, I believe. I'd have to look at the files. Um, but in other words, that for lifetimes, I've enmeshed myself in dualities, resulting in indecision. Uh, in fact, I fucking will do read uh, story. Um, Showing me the esoteric portion of myself, supposedly. And like I said, I don't have a. When I was younger, I used to really think more so that this was, completely true. As I've gotten older, eh, I just, I don't. Uh, but then again, I mean, it is interesting. It's karmic astrology, and I need to fucking be able to rotate it so I can read it. I always hate Google Drive first, but I really like OneDrive better, even though you pay for, like, I don't, well, no, I pay for my Google Drive too. But see, on here, I like this little fucking app. program because you can take a PDF and you can flip it and turn it around. I don't need to upgrade to Pro. Oh, that's not. Dude. Yeah, rotate. Now rotate again. And one more time. Alright. The key word here is promise. For lifetimes, this individual has enmeshed himself in dualities, resulting in indecision. He has tried to be all things to all people, and as a result, has made himself attuned to superficiality. Now he has strong karmic lessons to learn in areas of loyalty and allegiance. Eventually, he will come to see that by playing both sides against the middle, he can only hope to make himself the center of the sandwich caught in the squeeze. Nevertheless, he retains a past life fear of committing himself fully to either side, for at least on the superficial level, he sees truth and right in both. He still believes that a definite commitment to one would leave him with the feeling of missing the opportunity in the other. This ability to remain uncommitted enables him constantly to adjust himself to fit the needs of the moment. Like the chameleon, his colors change with his surroundings. In past incarnations, he was not too discriminating, knowing that it really didn't matter where he gave his affiliation since he never gave his complete self. Now he swings like a pendulum in the breeze, open to ride, if but for a brief time, on the winning wind. He purposely makes himself the pawn of others, and even if only for the moment, seems to agree with them so that he can feel accepted and a part of something. Through many lives, his sense of self-identity has become not merely a single division, but filled with all the questions of everybody he was in contact with. Since so many people have formed the building blocks of this inner self, it is impossible for him to be anything but a hypocrite. When he speaks, his facial expression as well as body language will change, taking on the words that he is now passing off and taking for himself. In fact, when he makes a definite positive statement, his eyes will always examine the recipient to see if it was received as truth. If not, then it doesn't matter, for he will now start talking incessantly, trying one collected statement after another, for the hope that somewhere in his collection of information a few words might be worthwhile. He loves activity, and when circumstances make him feel cooped up or bogged down, he becomes highly nervous and restless. Always overprogrammed, he struggles to keep up with the myriad of details and people that fill his life. He has so much to do, and yet at the end of each day feels distracted from his goal. In past incarnations, he has never developed a long attention span, and as a result, he spends much of this life changing his mind about everything. At one point, he will go through conflict over whether to live in a large city or in the country. The conflict is really between the continuation of his past life need to be with people and his present life desire to be away from them. Direction does not come at an age, more than not it comes through the aid of a parent or an older person who sets him on his course. This occurs usually after age 28. See, I hadn't read this in a long time. Underneath it all, he is unsteady. He has been so busy seeing the shades of gray and everything that he has difficulty seeing the light of truth in himself. For this individual, life's biggest task involves a quest for higher knowledge. Through the Sagittarius North Node, he must learn that in order for man to be capable of seeing the truth, he must first be the truth. He will go far if he teaches himself to speak from his higher mind, for the esoteric meaning of all that he says will ultimately show him who his real identity. When he starts to mesh with transcendental thought, he will begin to reach a spiritual union within himself. He must work through his karma of perpetuating trivia and come to see that participating in gossip is the greatest sin against liberty. Then he must turn his back on all past life residue of pretended sophistication and reach for all that is real and natural. Ultimately, he comes to see that although a coin has two sides, it's still one coin. When he develops this perspective of vision, he'll be able to transform all of the knowledge he has acquired into wisdom. The house position of the South Node shows the area where past incarnation personality conflicts still plague the mind. The position of the North Node shows the way in which developing a higher consciousness can be a vehicle which helps rise above all conflict. His present life evolution will free him from the bondage of indecision and in its place give him glimpses of universal truth. Now, that's, one part of mine, and I'm not going to read every one of mine, but think of people you may know. I'm going to read a next part. This does not apply to me, but this is for people that are in Capricorn North Node, Cancer South Node. I actually know somebody. I was reading this one day, just reading the rest of it that was included because he scanned these out of his personal book when he looked at my stuff and sent them to me. So he did scan some stuff, and it says stop because it it only starts and stops where it applies to me. So this one doesn't apply to me according to the reading, but I read it and I swear to God, there's people that I've known or worked around in life, and it seems like it's talking about some of them. This individual is learning how to achieve maturity. In past incarnations, he has a tendency to look at everything through rose-colored glasses, seeing only what he wanted to, with a definite conviction that everything else didn't exist. Now there is still much of the baby left in this Cancer South Node. He is so used to going through his prior lives on crutches, wrestling with his dependencies while seeking banisters to lean on, that his current life is the resultant shambles of escapist, childlike habits which keep impeding his growth. Truly, this is the perennial infant, desiring at all costs to maintain his role as the focus of parental attention. In areas of problem solving, he would rather have his parents do it. Everybody he meets and knows, be it friend, business associate, or marriage partner, becomes the symbolic parent to pick up the pieces of his misery, protecting him from being hit by the falling sky which he has created. He even creates his own illnesses if they bring with them the slightest hint of gaining love and affection. Constantly practicing at becoming an adult, he never seems quite ready or willing to make the transition. Somehow he keeps feeling he needs more practice. All he does in this life is based on his sole memory of sensitive past feelings, which are still shattered by the slightest rejection. Many individuals with these nodes are strongly wrapped up in the business of their country. They personalize government. For them, it is still part, in a large sense, of their own Cancerian family. Underneath all else are unusually strong feelings of patriotism and loyalty. Many with these nodes focus a good part of their strength and attention on younger people. They like to listen to the trials and tribulations of others, but not being quick problem solvers themselves, they have a tendency to hold everything inside them. As the weight of problems increase, like collecting layers, they seem to age in spite of themselves. The most difficult karmic problem of the Cancer South Node is learning how to let go. The individual brings with him into this life such strong inner fears of ever losing or forgetting anything, that he keeps making extra special efforts to retain all he has ever gone through. As such, he makes himself the psychic garbage pail of the past. Constantly, he is thinking about his present in terms of what he should have done years ago or lives ago. He often can be seen sorting through old photographs, hoping to create his future out of fragments of his past. Yeah, there's not a lot of people that I thought that applied to, but there was one person in particular, that, and it's weird because when I read this about it, and I thought of them, things I used to like get into arguments with them on or stuff or gripe about, like, I don't know, I became like, when I was more aware and had a real good like stomach intuitive thought that, I read this and then I think of so and so, and now I'm looking at them in real life during a situation or argument, and they're acting X, and and that along with X and Y and Z, it looks like that this is, maybe a fit for them. Like, I had more compassion for that person. Not that I didn't already, but especially because of what they had going on in their life. But I didn't hold their stubbornness, I guess you'd say, or their, some people are just set in their ways. And I would try to share stuff about like the smoothie, the live food, or other things I had learned, or things about government, or there for a few years I was really, really big, and this is one thing that old ex old ex-wife can confirm, Kayla. Uh, when I made her dinner and we cooked salmon, well, I cooked salmon, and she made asparagus with it for it, and we had sat down and had a dinner. Um, I showed her the film The American Dream, and she was one of the few people that actually enjoyed watching and learning about that stuff. But she knows there for a while, I was big on trying to spread the story about, because I never heard about or knew how money was, how it came to be. I was always interested in that. And I found whenever I asked certain people and went looking for answers, I got like different and fragmented similar answers, and sometimes even different answers. So when I had learned how, you know, back in the long, long ago, what people did was they bartered. And obviously this led to problems because you just, you know, if you have a system where it just totally relies on that, you're going to run into the problem sooner or later where what you're trying to barter for something isn't going to be wanted, and it's just going to create problems. So, the way it goes is supposedly a goldsmith, had minted gold or made it, broken down the gold that they had mined and made it into little handheld pieces. And it came up with this idea, and he said, you know, everyone values gold, so why don't we use gold to trade for everything that we need? Well, that was pretty good at first. So the price was set for gold. People conduct commerce with gold and silver. But even with the small pieces of gold that were first made, they weren't that small. I mean, they were relatively small, but it accumulates, especially if you accumulate wealth. And basically, the problem of robberies and stuff happened. So uh, I think the legend is this like the same person that came up with the gold idea, but I don't know if that's any truth to that. But basically, there was then the idea of the first bank, which was basically somebody that had their own vault when in a time when not everybody did, and they would give people a certificate of however much gold that they had in the vault, and those certificates could be used to trade because they were just as good as gold because you can go and cash it in. The only thing is though is the person that started keeping the gold got this idea, technically it's all in my possession. So what they did was they created more certificates for IOUs than there were for gold, loaned them out at interest, made a penny, pretty penny. Nobody was the wiser, unless everybody wanted to get their gold back at the same time. And then you have what's called a run on the bank situation. And when that happened, people would realize that basically whatever there was left, which was little to anything, I think, for how the story goes, but basically what everybody had expected that they still had in wealth, they didn't. It was all gone because he was moving it around and changing the money. And so they hung that guy. They killed him. And one of the more, um, I don't know, I guess reasons to the story or explanation was he had asked him, he said, "Do you know why?" He was like, "Because he was a thief." He said, "Because man had learned how to turn worthless paper into gold." And so, I mean, that's a cool little neat story. It has to do with, if you Google the term fractional reserve banking, look up how the IRS as well as Federal Reserve are, they're not federal institutions. Like here, let me show, if I can find it. There used to be, see, they have what's called a Fed chairman. I know I'm such a fucking junk box, but I know all this shit, right? Uh, tell me, yeah, tell me I can find this. Um, this was back when Greenspan was the Fed chairman, and he says something that's very intriguing. And what's funny about it, once you learn about the Federal Reserve, you learn that these chairmans or Fed chairmans that supposedly work with the president, they uh, they have no really no duty bound or interest to do anything
I have the ideology because I believe that it is the
that
best.
the president wants or whatever, and more so it's actually the other. I'm not literally reading. I was reading some of that the karmic stuff, but I haven't been reading what I've been talking about here lately with the Fed and everything. If you think I have, you're out of your mind.
Best way of coming out.
So, anyways, here we go. He was chairman under Reagan, Clinton, uh, Bush Senior, and Bush Junior.
I have the ideology because I believe that it is the best way of coming at the world and what type of policy.
What is the proper relationship? What should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place.
That is fucking huge. They don't teach us that in school. It's not a common fact. If you mention it to some people, they say, so? But just think about the implications of that statement. And I think it's uh, funny this guy asked this type of question, being that he's in mainstream media, but
The world and what type of policy.
What is the proper relationship?
what's the proper relationship, or what should be the proper relationship between the chairman of the Fed, which here again is the thing that is above our money supply, the value of our dollar and all that, between that and say our president of our country?
Should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically
It's independent.
There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that
Because see, the Federal Reserve is technically, it has a charter. Most corporations or fraternities, for instance, social clubs, the Fraternal Order of the Police, what have you, will have a charter. The Federal Reserve has a charter, but it's not a not. I don't think it's a not-for-profit organization. It's sort of like the main bank. It's the regulatory body over all the lending institutions and uh, de basically depositories or banks. In other words, they work with and communicate. And you've got a Fed office. There are regional Fed offices. I think there's one in Kansas, in the Kansas City, St. Louis area that covers like the Midwest. And then you've got one, another, like this thing is huge, and people need to know about it.
administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. And I've had very good relationships with presidents.
Well, I know that you mentioned it in the book, and everybody knew about it at the time, that President George H.W. Bush blamed you, partly at least, for his reelection laws.
I think he said fully.
I think fully. You're right. I'm trying to put a help you out there a little.
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter. And I've had very good relationships with presidents.
Doesn't matter. I'd call bullshit. I'd say it matters a lot.
The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that.
We have a privately owned central bank system disguised as a government-owned system.
There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that.
Senator Dorgan has spoke out on the secrecy of the Federal Reserve System. There is no entity in the world that controls our lives more than the Federal Reserve System. What the Federal Reserve Board does, nobody knows what they're doing.
Who actually made that decision to hand out $1 trillion that way? $500 billion. Who made that decision?
The Federal Open Market Committee.
All right, well,
There's old good Ben Bernanke, who took over late, I believe, at the second administration after Greenspan left, and was around in the Obama administration. And I think he actually got out right before Trump got in. Yeah, because now the Fed chairman is this woman named Janet Yellen.
the Constitution says no money shall be drawn from the
Now, I'm
treasury.
not reading from anything, so, dude, I wonder how many of y'all knew who the damn Fed chairmans were.
But in consequence of appropriations made by law.
This money is not drawn from the Treasury.
The money is not drawn from the Treasury. Now, see, what's interesting is when they made the Fed, the Treasury, is the United States Treasury. It's a government agency entity, but as he just said, and even if, which is kind of bullshit from him to say that, but basically what they've turned the Treasury into is they've made the Treasury just basically the printing press. They determine the power and the weight of currency all from the Fed. So essentially, the Fed, that's why he's saying the money's not drawn from the Treasury.
We can always print money.
Is it safe to say that nobody in 1913 contemplated that your small little group of people would decide to hand out $500 billion to foreigners?
There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
What the Federal Reserve Board does, nobody knows what they're doing.
We can always print money. We can always print money.
Yeah, you could always print money and then it raises the value.
The United States can pay any debt.
And it's called hyperinflation. And if we can pay any debt, then why do we have a debt clock? Why don't we just pay all the debts off and print all the money we need then? If it's just that simple, like he makes it seem to be. This looks like an interesting vid I hadn't seen because it just came out 2 months
In the year 1910, a secret meeting between some of the world's most powerful private men took place on the secluded.
If you've never read The Creature from Jekyll Island, it is a great book, an old book, and it details all this.
Island of Jekyll Island. This is where the idea and the plan.
Which is a island that is just right off the coast of Georgia.
to form the Federal Reserve was hatched. This meeting was so secretive that they did not even admit this meeting happened until the 1930s. Now, given the fact that today the Federal Reserve is number one, the most powerful economic decision maker in the world. Number two is not a company. Number three is not a federal agency either. And number four is not accountable to either shareholders or to voters. It leaves the inner workings of the Federal Reserve shrouded in mystery and suspicion. So let's get to the bottom of this. What is the Federal Reserve and who really owns it? The Federal Reserve is the central bank in the United States, but it actually was not the
which our founders always warned and argued against.
first central bank. In the United States, we have a long history.
Yeah, there was a central bank and it was taken down. And yeah, there's a reason why we're not supposed to like central banks.
Of some,
as you see, some founding fathers were strongly opposed to the formation of a national banking system. The fact that England tried to place the colonies under the monetary control of the Bank of England was seen by many as the last straw. And basically, guess who controlled the Bank of England? No, not just the royal family and those people, Rothschild, etc. Guess who helped build the Federal Reserve? Rothschild, etc. Yeah.
Founding fathers being absolutely against any central banks whatsoever, and others pushing for the creation of central banks for their entire lives, leading to a total of 3 central banks in United States history.
Alexander Hamilton, that's on the $10 bill, he was one of the people that was an advocate of central banks. In fact, he was in a duel with Aaron Burr and lost. I don't think they took too kindly to our first state secretary.
History. One of the largest opponents to a central bank in the United States was none other than Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was extremely opposed to central banking. One spurious quote attributed to Thomas Jefferson is that if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Now, seeing as how the earliest appearance of this quote was from the 1930s, it is clearly not a direct quotation from Thomas Jefferson, but the echoes of this quote appear all throughout his writings and his speeches. He wrote that banking establishments are more dangerous than standing armies, and that the principle of spending money to be paid by posterity under the name of funding is but swindling futurity on a large scale. Now, the reason why Thomas Jefferson and many other founding fathers were against central banking and even against paper currency was because they had already experienced the results of that. The Articles of Confederation granted Congress the control to print money. At one point, the continental currency in 1979 had a monthly inflation rate of 47%.
Damn.
And so in order to stop these mistakes from being repeated, when they wrote the Constitution, which replaced the Articles of Confederation, they took away the power to print money and gave Congress instead only the power to coin money. It was at least in part because of this influence that central banks in the United States were not able to take hold. That is, until the one that was created in 1913. And there's a reason why this one stuck and the last ones did not. But first, a quick word about One Gold, which is today's sponsor, and they are the lowest cost in the industry to be able to buy precious metals like gold, silver, and platinum. Let's take a look real quick and compare the pricing of One Gold versus other retail sellers of gold and silver. The premium for gold at One Gold is 0.8%, which at the current price of gold comes out to about $16 over spot. Compare this to a standard 1 ounce American Eagle, which will run you over $170 above spot. 16 bucks is a heck of a lot better than 170 bucks. Compare this as well to their 2% fee on silver, which at today's prices comes out to about 51 cents. On a standard 1 ounce American Silver Eagle, you're going to pay $45, which is $20 per ounce, close to a 100% premium. Now, you might be thinking that storing your precious metals in a vault would get very expensive and that maybe doing something like an ETF would be more cost effective. So let's take a look. GLD, the Spider Gold Shares ETF, is the most popular gold ETF, and it has a gross expense ratio of 0.4%. Compare this to 0.12% for the storage fee for 1 gold for gold, or 0.3% for silver. In addition, the metal held in 1 gold's vaults is fully insured. And once you get to the point where you have more gold or silver or platinum than you want to have in storage, you can always request delivery, which you can't do with an ETF, which means you can build up your ounces for the lowest cost possible. And then once you're ready to exchange it for those coins that you want or those bars that you want, you can do so at a time when the premiums are good for you. And finally, if you live in a state that charges you a sales tax on precious metals, 1 Gold does not charge you a sales tax when you purchase a vaulted position of precious metals. This allows you to put more of your money at work into the metal itself. I've been using 1 Gold for years now. I'm a huge fan. I know them. I trust them, recommend them. And if you would like a little bonus, sign up with the link in the description below. So the participants at the meeting at Jekyll Island came up with a plan in order to get a central bank in the United States that would stick. Part of this involved calling it the Federal Reserve so that Americans would be tricked into thinking it was part of the federal government. But it wasn't enough to just call it the Federal Reserve. They did have to have the government itself sign up for it so that it would give it some sticking power. They put these ideas in motion and were able to get Congress to pass the Federal Reserve Act, and President Woodrow Wilson signed it in December 1913. However, over the years,
and Wilson agreed
things
to do it before he became president.
Changed a little bit, and we know that the way something starts is not necessarily the way it always stays. And so, what is the structure of the Federal Reserve today? Who owns it? Who controls it? And most importantly, who profits off of it? Let's start with who controls it. The Federal Reserve was created by the Federal Reserve Act, an act of Congress, and it could be undone by an act of Congress as well. Not only that, but it can also be changed by Congress as it has before in
need to be petitions to Congress on
order to direct what the Federal Reserve does and how it does it. Case in point, in 1977, Congress gave the Federal Reserve the dual mandate. This is the most important point that we will talk about in this video, that the Federal Reserve exists because of Congress, and its job is directed by Congress, and its existence could be ended by Congress. We'll come back to that in a little bit, because just because an entity is ultimately subject to another entity doesn't mean that that other entity dictates every little thing it does. Congress does not dictate every little thing that the Federal Reserve does, especially its most important day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year actions, which is governing monetary policy. Monetary policy includes 2 main things, which is the Federal Reserve's balance sheet and interest rates. Federal Reserve's balance sheet is a total of all the assets the Fed has purchased with money it has printed out of thin air. These assets are mortgage-backed securities and U.S. Treasuries. Federal Reserve also sets interest rates in order to try and influence interest rates of downstream loans across the economy. Now, given the fact that the Federal Reserve controls the dollar and influences the dollar with its monetary policy, and the dollar is the global reserve currency, you'd think that maybe these people making this decision would be subject to...
The danger is if our dollar becomes not the reserve currency anymore, its value will get worse.
Voter accountability. That is not the case. Monetary policy is dictated by the Federal Reserve's Federal Open Market Committee. the FOMC. This committee is made up of 12 members, the 7 members of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, the President of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and the 4 of the remaining 11 Reserve Bank presidents who rotate every year. So we've got a committee here that are the ones deciding monetary policy for the most powerful currency in existence today. This committee is made up essentially of 2 groups of people. One of them is the Board of Governors, and the other is Reserve Bank presidents. So who are these people and where do they come from? The Board of Governors is appointed by the President of the United States and confirmed by the Senate. Now, these terms for the Board of Governors are 14 years long, and they terminate every couple of years so that they don't coincide with U.S. presidential elections. That way, any one president is not going to be able to stack the deck in his favor, and they're just going to have to replace the ones that come up for reappointment. But the President of the United States and confirmed by the Senate, so Congress, are the ones who choose the Board of Governors. And the Board of Governors make up half of the FOMC, the people who decide monetary policy. But what about the other half of that committee? The Reserve Bank presidents. Who are those people? The Federal Reserve has 12 regional federal banks located.
One in Kansas, St. Louis, Atlanta, Richmond, Philadelphia, Boston, Cleveland, Chicago, Minneapolis. Damn, there's only one out in San Francisco. You got Dallas. They got all these banks on this side, on the West Coast. They only got one.
Located in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Richmond, Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Dallas, and San Francisco. These district banks oversee all of the banks in their district. The board of directors for these regional banks are elected by the member commercial banks. Okay, so we've got the 12 district banks. The board of directors is chosen by the member banks. But how do those elections happen? Who gets how many votes? And who chooses the candidates? Well, the fact is these 12 regional banks are set up in a similar way to private banks, which means these district banks actually have shares. And in order to be a bank under a district, by law, you have to own shares in your Federal Reserve District, the regional bank. However, owning Federal Reserve Bank stock does not give you the same rights or privileges that owning stock in a private company give you. These shares can't be traded, they can't be sold, they can't be shorted, and they can't be used as collateral for loans. And they don't give you voting rights the same way shares in a publicly traded company do. Why in the world do they have to own these shares then? If it doesn't give them voting rights, they can't sell these shares. What do those shares do for them? Well, first of all, that is how the original funding came to set up these 12 reserve banks. Each bank gets one vote regardless of how many shares they have, and some banks have a ton of shares. Thanks to a Freedom of Information Act by Institutional Investor, Federal Reserve Bank of New York released the capital stock holdings and showed that Citibank held 42.8% of the total shares, while Chase held 29% of the total shares, which highlights an important fact. Individuals cannot own shares of these banks. Only banks can own shares of the Federal Reserve banks. What's odd here is the candidate selection usually presents only a single candidate for each director, which means some big banks that have lots of shares of their reserve banks may be playing a key role behind the scenes in selecting those candidates. So yes, every bank who, because you're a bank, you've got to own shares of your reserve bank. Every single one of those banks does get a vote on which candidate becomes the director or the president of their reserve bank. But how much does that vote really count when there's only one candidate to begin with? So let's sum up the organization structure here before we move on to the final piece, which is profits. Federal Reserve exists because of Congress. The Board of Governors is appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate. The Board of Governors is on the FOMC, which dictates monetary policy. The other part of the FOMC is made up of the presidents, some of the presidents of the reserve banks. Those presidents of the reserve banks are voted into their positions by the member banks, although it looks like they might be just chosen anyway by the bigger banks because they're usually the only candidate. And finally, the profit. Who is making money off of this? There are two main recipients of profits in the Federal Reserve System. The shares pay a dividend of 6%, or the lesser of that and the high yield of the most recent 10-year treasury. So not individuals, but the banks receive a 6% dividend. Now, 6% is not a lot. So where does the rest of the money go? After the Federal Reserve finishes paying for all of its expenses, like its buildings, keeping the lights on, employing the thousands of PhDs who have never worked a real job in their life, they send the rest of the money over to the Treasury. That's right, the Federal Reserve, if it has any profits left over after paying those dividends and after paying out all of its salaries, all of its expenses, it takes that money and sends it over to the federal government. Now, normally that amount that it profits and then sends over back to the federal government is fairly large, in the neighborhood of billions of dollars every week. But remember this thing, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet? That's basically all their assets that they own, and those are a big pile of very low yielding bonds, meaning that right now the Federal Reserve is not making any profits. Yes, they're still paying out their dividends. Yes, they're still paying their expenses, but they're not having anything left over right now, which means no, they're not sending anything to the United States government. This means that source of funding that the federal government has relied upon from the Fed is no longer there right now. It'll be quite some time before the Federal Reserve is profitable enough to start paying the government again. That's because ever since the number went negative, meaning the Federal Reserve was not profitable, they're printing money to make up all of their losses, which means once they're profitable again, they have to come back to black before they start paying the government again, meaning all that money that they printed to fund their expenses, now that's just a big old IOU to themselves, so that once they're profitable again, they still don't start paying the government until they've paid themselves back for all the money they printed to pay for their own expenses. At the end of the day, it is a somewhat complex nest of webs in terms of who owns what and who controls what and who is making what decisions, but nothing is shrouded in absolute secrecy anymore. There are some things that are still hidden behind the curtain, but given what we know about how the Federal Reserve operates and given what we still don't know, we have enough to say we should be ending the Fed. And remember at the beginning when I told you that this was all about Congress, that Congress started the Federal Reserve, they've amended the Federal Reserve Act, they continue to allow the Federal Reserve to exist, and at any point in time, they could end the Fed's existence. Heck, even amend the Federal Reserve Act yet again to restrict what the Fed can do in terms of controlling monetary policy, making them more accountable, having more oversight, or how about even auditing their balance sheet? Yes, at the beginning, the Federal Reserve was a creation, a creature of private individuals, bankers at Jekyll Island. But the responsibility for the Federal Reserve that we have today is 100% on Congress. And if we have any hope of going back to the founders of this country's vision and not having a central bank, it's going to be because of Congress as well. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.
Yep. Oh, let's look at this. Rest of Taylor's business. Crazy one. Immense.
Hey, is this blood? Does this look like blood to you? Or am I just tripping? Bloody footprint? You see this right here?
Could possibly be blood.
Hey, who did that? Hi, Taylor. How's it going? Officer Russell with the Green Bay Police Department. Just make sure you ain't got nothing on you here. With Taylor. Taylor, you have one more for your, wrist. Just put that back quick.
Anybody else here?
You got blood on your hands here too. No, on your hands. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to.
What apartment is it?
What apartment are you in?
Do you have it? They come up?
On the double.
Which apartment?
One is what they came back to. Yeah, go. Guys, hurry and get here now. Watch this window right here. Gun. Go in here. Come to the back of the apartments. That's where we're at. You come over here. 2 more will be fine. If 84 is here. You have contact with the mail.
Walk out towards me.
Have a seat.
Get out of the house.
Who else is in the apartment? Be straight up. Tomes? Who else? Just Tomes? Is he armed? Nobody's armed?
Nobody's armed.
You sure?
You're not believing! Is anybody get here? Announce yourself now!
Go ahead. Negative, we got it up here.
Okay, and for the record, 4 minutes of that exhibit, actually the entirety of that exhibit was played into the record. Officer, having reviewed that video, do you recognize the video that was depicted?
Yes.
Was that consistent with the body camera warrant footage that you were wearing on February 23rd?
Yes.
I'd move exhibit 81.
Any objection?
No. Received. So I want to ask just a few questions then, Officer. There's an earlier part in the clip where you had noted some area of suspected blood. Is that right?
That's right.
And what do you recall observing?
It looked like a couple of drops of blood in front of the vehicle, along with a footprint that was within, or that encompassed one of the drops.
And I guess was that pointed out to other officers who were on scene?
Yes.
You mentioned then the lights of the vehicle were activated and sort of flash. Is that right?
Yes.
And then about 10 seconds later, Mr. Business exited the apartment?
Yes.
At the end of the video, where were you walking Mr. Business to?
I was walking her to my patrol car.
And was she, I guess, put in the back of the squad car?
Yes, she was.
Was there any further questioning or anything done at that point?
The only question I asked Mr. Business was if she knew why we were there.
Okay. And then did you ultimately just transport her then to the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes.
When you got to the Green Bay Police Department, what further steps did you take?
We placed her in interview room 3, I believe, where I had Officer Kenny assist me with taking photographs of what looked like smeared blood on her hands and on her clothing. I also had her remove the sweatshirt that had what appeared to be blood on it, as well as her socks and her shoes.
And then was another officer requested to assist with the further removal of some clothing?
I believe after
Change your name to your business. I mean, come on now.
I left the room, there was another officer that might have been asked to assist with the removal of some additional clothing so that Mr. Business could get temporary clothing because we wanted all our clothes as evidence.
The clothing items that you took, did those stay within your custody and control?
Yes,
And did you subsequently enter them into evidence at the Green Bay Police Department?
I did.
I guess in totality on February 23rd, in your interactions with Ms. Business, did you ask sometimes some questions of her?
I didn't ask questions of her. I more like commands like, hey, please remove your jacket. Please remove your hat. Let me get your shoes. Sit here. Just commands, not really questions.
The commands that or requests that you were giving Ms. Business, was she in that time following those?
Yes, she was.
Was she in some instances responding appropriately
Yes, she was.
in the context of your questions and commands?
Yes, she was.
For instance, did you ask if there was anyone else in the residence at that point?
I did ask her.
Did she provide a response?
She did.
And was there a person located in the apartment?
Yes, there was.
Thank you, officer. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Freilich.
Thank you. Officer Russell, good morning.
Good morning.
So you were asked to go directly to 2353 Eastman Avenue on February 23rd of 2022, correct?
Yes.
Who asked you to go over there?
I was dispatcher, and Sergeant Brister also instructed me to go there.
Sergeant Brester?
Yes.
Okay, did you go by yourself?
Several other officers were sent to the location.
And what was the purpose of you going over there?
The purpose of me going over there was to relieve deputies that were on scene, along with assist with the overall incident.
Were you going over there to look at a vehicle or talk to people or what?
I was tasked, me and other officers were tasked with locating a person who was last seen with the victim, as well as looking at the vehicle as I described earlier.
Okay. So you were asked to go and see if you could make contact with Taylor Chavizis?
Correct.
Have you been involved in death scene or homicide scene investigations prior to this particular situation?
Yes.
Where is she? In the car where you left her.
A Georgia man is now in police custody after he allegedly kidnapped his ex-girlfriend from her job, led police on a high-speed chase, then shot and killed her after crashing his vehicle.
Over to the car, put her in the car. She was protesting, but he had a weapon, so it wasn't a lot she was going to do.
It happened on July 16th in Fayetteville, Georgia, about 30 minutes south of Atlanta. At about 11 o'clock that evening, dispatch there received a call for a kidnapping in progress. Investigators say the suspect, 20-year-old Cameron Hopkins, forced his ex-girlfriend, 19-year-old Kalia Jones, to leave work at a Wingstop restaurant and get into his car. Witnesses told first responders Hopkins had a gun.
What you saw? What happened is, when we came in, I don't even recall whether he was already here or he came in after we were here. And what he did is he had the lady that waited upon us and was escorted out of here by him, said something that was inaudible to me. And she continued to do what she was supposed to be doing, I guess, waiting on everybody. And finally, he appeared to be a little frustrated. So what he did is he walked behind the counter. The lady, I'm assuming that was the manager, what are you doing? Don't go beyond this point. he proceeded to go in the back, accosted her back toward the rear of the store, grabbed her by the arm, and walked her out of here with a weapon.
Okay. When he walked out of the store, did you see anything outside the store?
Say it again, officer.
Did you see, when they left the store, did you see what type of vehicle they got in or anything like that?
It appeared to be something on the order of a Camaro type of vehicle, red in color.
Okay. All right.
They had a little verbal altercation outside of the car.
Where were they parked at?
Over there on the other side of that white car over by that building there.
Okay.
The vehicle was facing that way. And he backed out, drove down a little bit into the parking lot, then turned around and then went out of the parking lot.
Okay. Would you be willing to write a witness statement on what you witnessed?
You want me to, man.
Yeah,
There's too much stuff going on.
I know it's a lot going on, but if you don't mind, and
Yeah.
did you see and
Yeah, I was on the side. I didn't see him walk around. My dad did. And when I heard the commotion, the manager saying, "You can't come behind here. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He accosted the young lady by the arm. He had his gun on him.
what color was it? You know what type of firearm was it?
It was tan
Tan.
handle. I'm going to assume it's probably a 9mm.
Okay.
Glock.
Okay.
He took her out, went over, took her over there. Because at that point, my dad was out. I was worried about him. So I rushed outside and I watched him. He marched her right over to the car, put her in the car. She was protesting, but, he had a weapon, so he wasn't going to lie, she was going to do it. And took her in the car. Like he said, he drove over there, did a semicircle, and we went down that way. And the manager, she was already in the process of calling.
Before this incident, Hopkins was already charged for kidnapping Jones once before. He was released on bond in that case in September of last year. Body camera video shows Fayetteville police officers following Hopkins on a chase through both Fayette and Clayton counties.
Can you advise if he actually was able to take the female from Wingstop? Taking a left on McDonough Road. Well, Mike, clear the pit.
There's 10-4, you can.
All right, we're coming up on the third part speeds. 80. Speeds climbing 95.
Over 100, about 105. McDonough Road coming up on Folsom Road.
He's blacking out.
I'm trying to catch y'all. Yeah, well, we're still on McDonough Road, speeds at about 90, coming up to Chelsea Drive. Radio, you contacted Clayton County already?
Dash camera video shows officers catch up with Hopkins and eventually ram into his vehicle. It comes to a stop near Lovejoy High School in nearby Hampton, Georgia.
I'm trying to catch y'all. Yeah, well, we're still on McDonough Road, speeds at about 90, coming up to Chelsea Drive. Radio, you contacted Clayton County already?
He's in a meeting. He's probably going to go fight here shortly.
$21.15 and 55, man. Clear your phone. Radio, looks like they turned into the high school here at middle school. Hang on.
As officers get out of their squad cars, shots are fired.
Hang on.
Radio, shots fired, shots fired. Hey, I'm behind you. I'm behind you. I don't know. Look right here. They're still in the vehicle with shots being fired. Units advised, Clayton. Units advised, we're at Lovejoy High School. If we can get some units coming to the back side of the school and knock them off. There's two occupants in the cars.
After this, officers call for Hopkins to get out of the vehicle.
You got a rifle? All right. Hey, give me. Yeah. Yeah, they're both still in the car. Coming to y'all.
So we can hear talking, we can't see anything. What do we got?
Two.
We hear female talking right now. I don't know if that's the meeting all shot.
No, no. They started popping as I was in my driver's seat and got out.
Okay. I'm gonna come out. I got one. Let's just make sure we stay on the hill.
I was trying to see if we can.
We definitely heard a female. There was female.
Who's that? Hold on. We got somebody coming in the backside of this high school. Hey, Clayton. Who is that?
Lovejoy right here. No, down there. That's using that as a cut through. All right. Good.
I'm good, bro. He's coming out.
No, I got this.
Out. He's coming out.
Down him right there by the car. The passenger door.
Climb out.
Yeah, he's gonna climb out.
Yeah, make him climb out. Hold on. Let me. I'm coming with the shield. Hold on. Shield.
Back up. There ain't no point moving up on him. Call his ass.
Come out.
Come out the car. That's what it looks to see.
Come out. Climb over. Come out.
Climb out of the window.
Get out.
Climb out of the window.
Come out the window.
Climb out of the window. I know you heard that.
She's deceased. She's
gone.
going on 9.
She's gone. Man, get out of the fucking car, man.
Brains out. Yeah.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car. Then
Get
crawl
out.
out. Crawl out.
You want to move up on him?
Crawl out. Negative. Negative.
No.
We got all but
Come out the car, man.
Hey, we will, but we need you out of the car.
Get out of the car, man. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Just come out of the car for us. Son, you got to come out of the car, man.
Crawl out. No,
man.
Hey,
Don't
one
reach for
voice.
anything.
One voice. You give voices.
Come out of the car, man. Look, come out of the car and we can help you and we can help her.
Keep your hands where I can see you.
Step out. Step out. Keep your hands up and just step out.
Come out.
Look, man.
Come
step
out
of the car so we can attend to her.
Come
Get
out.
of the car.
Get out of the car so we can help her.
Step out. There you go. Step out. Step out.
On the ground. On the ground.
Step
On the
out.
ground.
Step
On the
out,
ground.
man.
No,
Step
get on the ground.
Hey, get on the ground. Get on the ground, man. Keep your hands right
On
there.
the ground. On the ground. Get out of the car so we can help her. Step out. There you go. Step out. Step out. On the ground. On the ground. On the ground. Step on the ground. No, get on the ground. Hey, get on the ground. Get on the ground, man. Keep your hands right there. On the ground. On the ground. Hang on. Hold on. Wait for them to call. Crawl to us. Crawl to us. Crawl to us. Hey, you take hands, Warning. Somebody still cover on the car. Come to us. I got the car. Come to us. Hey, crawl to us right now. Crawl. Crawl to us now. One voice. One voice. Crawl to us. Warning, you got hands and commands. Come to us. Do it now. I got you. You ready? Pull more. Damn it. More.
According to a release from the Fayetteville Police Department, officers used a less lethal method to lure Hopkins out of his vehicle. They call it a, quote, OC-type irritant that affected his eyes. Once he's out of the crashed vehicle, body camera video shows officers pour water over Hopkins's eyes where they had become irritated. Hopkins appears to be crying, asking where Jones is.
Okay, no, because the gun went off on her. Okay. Right, we're not arguing with you, dude.
All right, stick your head out.
Stick your head out. We're gonna dump this on you so you can get some of that OC out of your eye.
Turn your head the other way. You want some more? You want more?
Oh my. Where is she? Yes or no? Do you want more water? Can I use more? All right. Where is she?
She's in the car where you left her.
Officers can be heard discussing what happened, saying they believe Hopkins shot and killed Jones.
I think he's full of. He said she had the gun and she shot herself.
No, it was him. I could clean his day. He'd come around with, and that's why I failed.
I'm just saying that's what he. Well, I know. That's when you jumped out, and I jumped out. I heard the shot, so I was like, "Let me come around this way." And then I couldn't see inside the car. I knew she was in there, so I was like, "I'm not gonna fire and hit her."
Yeah.
But
I saw two people, and I thought I actually had a black hood because it passed me southbound on 314 after I just left up there at Kenwood, and I was like, "That can't be it going southbound on 314 from the Wingstop," and it turned left onto Banks, and I went down 85 to turn around to see if it was it, and I just lit it up and he took off. Hey, he popped some rounds off into my windshield as I was bailing out. I'm fairly certain he shot her. I mean, she got a shot to her head. She's 109D. Best I.
Hopkins now faces charges of kidnapping and aggravated assault out of Fayette County. He faces multiple charges out of Clayton County as well, including murder and possession of a weapon. He's due back in court on August 7th. Reporting for Lone Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
I was on patrol, and I heard the call come over to dispatch.
Green Drive, I have a female with stab wounds. Attention, ambulance. Ambulance is needed.
You could tell by the tone of her voice that it wasn't normal.
Sabrina has a 12-inch bread knife that she is holding in her right hand. She's covered in blood.
I could see blood on the blade. I can see blood on her. Immediately, we started screaming to drop the knife. It almost like snapped her out of whatever she was in back to some type of reality. I kicked it away from her and we put her down on the floor. It was a very tense couple seconds.
The suspect, Sabrina Zunich, she was a 18-year-old foster child of Lisa Knafel. Also inside the house was Megan Sinella and Haley Knafel. Megan being 13 and Haley being 3 years old.
The father, Kevin, was away on a trip. He was a truck driver and he was in Michigan at that point.
Sabrina was in foster care for many years before she came to the Knafels.
Sabrina landing with the Knafels really represented a fresh start for her. She went from a troubled home with her biological father and grandma to a youth shelter where she did not want to be. She's getting along with the family. She's doing great at school. She's not getting in trouble. Things seem to be looking up for her. I couldn't find anything indicating something like this could happen.
Hi, please. Yeah, you remember me, right?
Our main goal when we first interviewed Sabrina was to get Sabrina to tell us exactly what happened. We caught her coming out of the room, so we knew she did it. We wanted to know why.
What do you recall?
Yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
getting done with my homework, going, I don't know, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bed.
And we're at home.
Mm-hmm.
What, anything unusual happened?
I don't know.
How do you get along with Kevin?
Kevin's a miracle. I mean, he's one of the one that helps me out because this has Megan to deal with, and so we made agreements a long time ago that if I need anything, that I can go to Kevin.
How about with Lisa? How do you get along with her?
Me and Lisa have never been the best. She's never seemed to like me, and she's been wanting me out of the house.
What's your thoughts on how Lisa is not alive now?
What?
Well, you had a knife. You stabbed Lisa.
I did.
Yes, you did. And Megan called the police.
That can't be true.
Bree, it is. I'm sorry.
Lisa's really dead.
Lisa's dead. Sorry.
I don't believe this. Nobody else is hurt.
Nobody else was hurt. Thank goodness.
Sabrina never denies committing the murder. She just acts confused when I tell her that she's the one who killed Lisa Knafel. We could have waited here for 4 days and we were probably going to get the same answers from her. We made the decision that we're just going to cut this down because she's not going to give us anything else that we need. I was hoping to find some text messages, some emails, some search history as to why this crime took place. Over the past several weeks, Kevin Knafel and Sabrina text messaged each other over 1,000 times. I did not think it was normal for a foster father and a foster daughter to have thousands of text messages between the two of them. We were confident that Kevin left for work at 8 p.m. the night before the murder, and he didn't get back into town until after Lisa's death. So we wanted to know from his perspective as to if there was any argument going on at the house before he left.
And then you told me you wanted to talk about his wife's work. Correct. That's the subject matter. Yeah. So.
I told his lawyer that we would just talk about the work, but I was hoping that maybe he would open up and give us some insight as to what was going on and why the reason that this happened.
Kevin, do you know anything that was happening at the house the night before you left for work that night? Well, hang on a second. We just talking about his wife's work. What's going on at the house the night before is not his wife's work. Okay. Where did your wife work at? County Children's Institute. What did she do there? She was a social worker for the children's section.
He was looking down. There was no tears. There was no anger.
Were you and Lisa in the process of going through a divorce? Okay, now we're getting outside the scope.
Kevin Knaefel was not willing to help the police in finding out exactly what happened to his wife. Why is he not cooperating with us? What is he hiding from us? So a proffer is a good faith first step when the defense attorney, the prosecution meet with the suspect. It's an opportunity for them to be 100% complete, honest, and tell exactly what happened. It's a first step into a plea agreement. We cannot use this against her in court.
What we believe from conversations is that what led up to this homicide, to this murder, is that there was another party involved in planning that.
Yes. This Kevin Knaefel, my foster father. It was Kevin's idea, and it was talked about after we were having sexual relations, and him and Lisa were having problems in marriage. He wanted to get a divorce, but Haley, which is a 3-year-old daughter of his and her, was in the picture, and he wanted full custody. She would get custody, or it would be shared, and he didn't want that happening. So the alternative was for this to happen.
When was it, after you started to live there on a daily basis, that your relationship with Kevin changed? When did the sexual nature start to change?
It all started not with sex, but with massages, because he was a truck driver and his legs would cramp, so it was inner thigh. Then it progressively got into sex.
Does he ever tell you, hey, you can't tell anybody about this?
All the time.
Did he say what would happen if you told
Then
him?
you'd be taken out of my care and I could lose my foster parent license.
What did you say in response to that?
I would never do that. Okay. Tell on him.
As Sabrina and Kevin's relationship continued, Sabrina described the increasing tension she felt from Lisa, and that Sabrina felt that she wasn't welcome in the house anymore.
So Kevin convinced Sabrina that if she did kill Lisa and did get caught, that she would only do 2 to 5 years, that he would protect her, and that after she got out, that he would be there with her. They would buy a house, and basically she can be like a mother figure to Haley.
So have you talked to him since
No.
then?
Nada, no money on my books, no letters, no calls, no nothing. Nothing.
That's when we learned that Kevin helped plan this murder. It was calculated, and essentially Kevin using Sabrina to get his wife out of the picture and to collect life insurance money. Sabrina's childhood, I believe, is probably the most important thing to understand why something like this could happen. Sabrina had never experienced a stable family, a loving household, belonging. Kevin seemed to know how to prey on Sabrina's vulnerabilities.
Of course he did.
In my opinion, the verdict came very quickly. The jury came up with a guilty verdict. I believe it took a matter of about 2 days.
Damn.
she was described as having some sort of a mental episode. The mother made a decision to take her up to the hospital to have her checked. The mother and daughter that brought her there left, leaving Rory in the care of the hospital. For whatever reason, she ended up leaving before she was actually seen by a physician. We see her exiting the hospital on her own. That was the last known sighting we had of her.
Communications.
I'm a plumber and I'm on site for a job. And we got we're snaking a drain, and we've been pulling back. We probably pulled back about 10 pounds, 15 pounds of like it looks like flesh type of stuff.
Ugh.
Meat, and we don't know what it is.
Hey, Brownie. Hey, Brownie. Hey, Brownie. Give me a hug. Squeeze.
The issue
Squeeze.
started several
Good
days
boy.
before. He didn't want any plumbers called.
You're a good boy.
He tried snaking the drain himself.
You're a good boy.
Taking efforts to fix it.
Yeah.
By the 29th,
You're a good boy.
it was getting so bad. The smell.
Scratchy,
pipes were
scratch.
backing up into the
Scratchy,
people's,
scratch.
bathtubs. People upstairs just took it upon themselves to call a plumber.
Brownie, like, yeah. Yeah, boy.
The
Yeah, boy.
officers on the scene decided to knock
Yeah,
on the
boy.
door of Adam Strong's basement apartment. They
He's like, I'm a
called him
good
to
little
take his
boy.
head down.
This message is brought to you by Brownie Boy. Brownie Boy. What do you got to say, Brownie Boy? Vote Trump 2024. Let's get Brandon out of office. Anything else, Brownie? My name is the Great Cornholio. I need more TP for my bunghole. Brownie, you're a dog. You don't use TP. Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. Okay, Brownie. Anything else to say before we continue on? I love Daddy. Aww, I love you too.
And making a comment almost instantaneously that the jig's up. It's a body.
You're such a good boy.
He commented to the arresting officer, if you want the rest of her, she's in my freezer, and she's pretty defleshed. And there, in fact, was somebody in the freezer, as Adam said.
That's horrible, man.
Rory had a distinct tattoo. She had the word alive tattooed on her neck. And when they looked through the freezer, they found a human head.
Oh my
And
God.
there was a tattoo clearly displayed. I knew right then, yeah, it's Rory. We didn't know at that point what the cause of death was. To lay that charge, you need the grounds. The decision was made
Ugly
to
motherfucker.
continue our investigation. To see
Oh,
where it takes us.
Sasquatch looking motherfucker. That motherfucker is not strong looking.
You said to the officers, if you're looking for the rest of her, you'll find her in the freezer. My question to you is the person in that freezer, Rory? I decline to answer that question. Okay. You're saying you decline to answer it, but you're shaking your head this way. Does that mean anything? No. Okay. Any interest from you at all in
Of course it does.
Telling us your side of things? No. Nothing? No.
Piece of shit. Disgusting piece of shit.
I was told these things go on for like hours. Is that true? Again, it's true.
Yeah, because they got to get you cracked.
After 3 hours of doing it, it was clear we weren't going to get anywhere. We were just going
Just as fat as he is, he's got a fat ass wall up in his head.
Obviously, you don't care enough to help. Are there tissue softener needed? Why, do you want some? No, I'm good. Yeah.
Asshole.
Let's just shut it down now. Could have sat there for another
Are the tissues up and needed?
6 hours. I don't think we were going to get any different
For the victims, maybe, you fucking motherfucker.
results.
You know what? We'll walk you back.
Really, all I got from that interview was a sense of who Adam was to help us going further down the road with the investigation.
Fat motherfucker.
It was the worst apartment I've ever been in for clutter and
Order.
and mess.
Ugh.
You could barely move.
Damn, his old fat ass was living in a fucking hovel.
A few little walkways in there.
There was a number of sex toys located in the apartment,
Ugh.
restraining devices, handcuffs.
Oh my
and
god,
whatnot.
that poor fucking girl, man. Piece of shit, dude.
There was a bent hammer we had
Let the inmates take him.
located Rory's DNA on. Rory's running shoes were located in a bag in the apartment.
Oh my
There
god.
was blood spatter located on the wall
Fucked
and
up,
bottom
man.
baseboards leading into Adam's bedroom. That knife's only designed for one use and one use only. It's a knife used by hunters for gutting and skinning animals.
Fucking
To a
fucked
logical
up.
person, it doesn't make sense. You keep all that evidence around, but seemed to be the way Adam thought.
He didn't give a
The
shit.
DNA that was located on that knife, it wasn't through blood. It was tissue-like material.
Oh my
We sent that
god.
knife off for analysis. We received the results back. That knife contained the DNA of a second female.
Oh my
The
god.
second victim was a 19-year-old female who went missing in 2008. And
This fucking monster, man.
very much like Rory, she was out of the house on her own. Both victims
Fucking
were in their late
fucked up,
teens, and
man.
both victims
Old
were
ugly ass motherfucking fat old sex dungeon wannabe man. I swear to God, dude. Castrate this motherfucker and throw the book at him now. Let the motherfuckers eat him up.
of more of a petite build.
Let him fuck and violate his asshole and just fuck his ass up. I cannot stand a motherfucking Look, man, that's just fucking horrible.
Longer, brown hair.
Almost a splitting image of each other. She went missing 10 years prior.
Fucking sick motherfucker.
And Adam went undetected for 10 years. It makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Makes me wonder what the fuck was y'all doing? How the fuck did he get away with that shit for 10 years? Have the evidence just chilling, does it again, gets caught, and then now y'all find it. Two fucking girls. He took two girls off of this fucking planet with his selfish, fat, gluttonous ass. I swear to God, man, that dude, he needs to get fucking stomach cancer. He needs to get prostate cancer. He needs to get every cancer imaginable. He's a piece of fucking shit. I hope he's suffering. I hope he's in prison somewhere today, holding somebody's fucking pocket.
I certainly felt some pressure. The reality is, if there was no conviction and he was a
That
free man,
fat motherfucker. Yeah, what do you mean no conviction? The shit's in his apartment. Fuck if he gives a talk or not.
How you doing? Good. Had better days. Sure. I'm drunk.
Yeah, I bet you've had better days.
I have been amazed at how well I have been treated. Other than a few staff members at the 8th egg.
Nobody gives a shit, and that's horrible. Like, this motherfucker is complimenting the treatment in jail he's got. Yeah, let's see how that is after you get convicted. See, right now you're still innocent until
certainly
proven
checked
guilty.
into how he had been treated thus far. That's important. Speaks towards admissibility. Addressed any needs that he had, and he said he hadn't eaten, so we took care of that.
No, dude, man, I know y'all are trying to get him a confession, man. I can't stand to see this fat motherfucker get to eat. Oh, I said combo. Fucking take it and enjoy it, motherfucker.
I certainly knew we couldn't rush into talking to Adam about the case, given the fact how it went with the two detectives back in December of 2017.
Piece of
Sharing
shit.
a meal with somebody, breaking bread with somebody, it's a chance to bond and talk. And then once that had gone on for an hour and a half or so, I started to talk about the case a little bit.
How old was Tori? 18. Okay, how much of her body did you guys get back?
Oh my god.
Skeletal structure, right? Well, we obviously whatever was in the house. Yes, in the freezer. Yes. And how much of it were you able to pull out of the pipes? Quite a bit. It was bad luck.
What?
That's what I tell people. They're like, "You're stupid."
I haven't ate.
I'm like, "You kidding me?" Well, that's an awesome way. Yeah. I just got greedy. That's all.
All importantly, doesn't react to what most people would perhaps react to, which is again a rather shocking thing to say.
Every time there was a little bit of information given to me, maybe even unknowingly by Adam Strong, inside I was giving myself a little fist pump, only because I thought we were advancing the case a little bit here.
Hell, that's admission. How the hell are you gonna be like, how much of your body you find without being the one that did it?
Where is she?
Shit.
In the corner where you left her.
Fucks you, shit business. And no, I ain't got a react or nothing. I'm watching shit. I want to be live while I'm doing it.
Opinion,
I can do it. Now, where the fuck is this damn case at?
He seemed comfortable. His needs were all met. There was no trickery. There was no oppression.
Man, fuck his needs.
Sharing a meal with somebody, breaking
All
bread
right,
with
here we go.
somebody, it's a chance to bond and talk. And then once that had gone on for an hour and a half or so, I started to talk about the case.
How you gonna bond with that motherfucker?
How old was Rory?
Fucking bullshit. Man, I swear to ooh, I'm mad about this motherfucker Brownie. I swear to God, I want to put him through a drain pipe. Piece of shit. He's a piece of shit, Brownie. He's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. You know what? Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're such a good boy. Yeah. Yeah. Say, I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling over here. I ain't got nothing to do. I'm just chilling. We ain't gotta do no training today, do we? Yes, we do. We gotta give you a bath today, too. It's been too long. You ain't had a bath in a minute. You don't seem dirty, but you dirty. I'm sure you are. We're going to use that Burt's Bees stuff. Yeah, you like that stuff, don't you? Makes your skin and your hair feel fluffy. We're going to do that after lunch. And after bath, we'll do some training. And after that, I got to get on the computer and work. Okay. All right. I love you, buddy. You're my best buddy in the whole world. I got people threatening they're gonna take you and stuff because they don't like me being happy or having anything happy. You know what? Do you not want to be here? He's like, shit. I don't want to be on the street again, scrounging for food and scraps. Say you get treated like royalty here, don't you, Bubba? Yeah, I get done all right. I could use some more food. You little fatty. Tell him, Granny. Tell him you lost about 1.5 pounds. Say you came in weighing at almost about 19 pounds, about 18.5 pounds. Put you on the scale, got you to sit your little butt down on it, and it weighed you.
How much of her body did you guys get back? Obviously, the entire skeleton.
Sick. Oh my God.
Well, we obviously whatever was in the house. Yes, in the freezer. Yes. And how much of it were you able to pull out of the pipes? Quite a bit. It was bad luck. Yeah, that's what I tell people. They're like, "You're stupid." I'm like, "You kidding me?" Well, that's an awesome way. Yeah. I just got greedy. That's all.
All importantly, doesn't react to what most people would perhaps react to, which is again a rather shocking thing to say.
Every time there was a little bit of information given to me, maybe even unknowingly by Adam Strong, inside I was giving myself a little fist pump, only because I thought we were advancing the case a little bit here.
That motherfucker. Oh, you gonna look at the camera and smile, you piece of shit. Christmas Eve.
Are you doing this while it's frozen or is it partially defrosted? Completely defrosted. Okay.
Suck, motherfucker.
That would take several hours, wouldn't it? No, not in a bathtub full of hot water. Oh, okay. Okay. Like within a couple hours? I wouldn't wager. I had to fill the bathtub up a few times on this time. Keep the water hot. Yes. Gotcha. I don't know if I should really be talking about that, but ultimately you do have me on the. There's no getting around that. Yep.
He thinks, and they are, only talking about dismemberment and disposal, but in fact, it's allowing in this case, the judge ultimately to make inferences about what must have happened during the actual murders that took place.
All right, well, I'm gonna blast. Man, go get some sleep, dude. I appreciate you sticking it out. Well, for sure, I really have a choice. No, but I probably said more than I should have. Probably. Yeah, probably. But that's okay.
Huh, that's okay. Yeah, it is, because this asshole needs to be down.
The judge watched the entire 12-hour interview, went through it, and the ruling came back quite clearly that Strong was well taken care of. He seemed comfortable. His needs were all met. There was no trickery. There was no oppression. This was essentially a slam dunk in terms of admissibility.
Fuck his oppression.
For a 12-hour interview.
I'm glad they fucking took care of his fat ass enough.
Of first-degree murder on Rory, and ultimately convicted of manslaughter on the second victim.
Detective Mitten and the investigative team got a first-degree murder charge and a manslaughter with no confession.
There definitely was a danger. They pulled the indignity. So if things went south in that interview room, he may have walked. That would have been a travesty.
It's really tough to describe Adam Strong. I have never met an individual like him. It was a tough investigation, but we speak for the victims. We're trying to bring them justice and give the family answers. The sentence he was given is the maximum sentence you can receive in this country. So yes, I feel justice was served.
Wounds to the head, focus, lots of blood. God. Stay on me, Drew. Clear. Clear. Got blood in the kitchen, blood down this hall. We got one down, shell casing on the floor.
As we were in the process of obtaining a search warrant, we were able to determine that it was Laura Grillo that was deceased on the floor. Laura Grillo was 37 years old. She was very active in her community.
She was like this ray of sunshine. She wanted to just make the world a better place. She was going to get married in a week. Laura and John were together about 7 years total.
Together, they have one child, 4 years old, and Laura has two older children from previous relationships.
He had asked if Laura was in the house.
Listen to me. It looks like a gunshot wound. That is all I can tell you. You have cameras on the house? Yes. Do they record? They used to. I don't know if they do. Okay.
We did not find any forced entry to the residence at all, and the rest of the home appeared to be untouched. This did not appear to us to be a random attack. Somebody wanted her dead.
Basically, the goal was to confirm John's whereabouts on the morning of the murder.
Just got off the phone with the police officers and detectives at the scene. I'm sorry for your loss. I want you to know that we're going to find out what happened.
When we started the interview, he cried quietly for about 60 seconds.
What would be the motive for someone to come in the house, attack Laura, come take her? No idea. Somebody chose to come in that house. But why?
What?
Did Laura receive any
No, I ain't put it in yet. Hold on just a second, guys. Let me put this on. I talk to my dog like that because I want to. If you don't like it, oh well.
Everything was good. I understand you don't know what was coming up. Yes, you go where you look in a week.
My dog pretty much is my baby. So get over it.
She was a love couple because of the love. She was really exposed to me.
John answered my questions that he didn't owe anybody no money. Nobody was threatening the family. They were pending a wedding, and he seems to be excited. He didn't stand out to be a suspect.
A lot of the people that we talked to described John as a very controlling person. He didn't treat Laura very well in public. We found out that John wanted out of the relationship with Laura, but he also was trying to maintain possession of his daughter. We were able to gather video surveillance footage from...
Yeah, just keep talking shit like you're gonna get my dog.
a couple of home improvement stores that John told us he went to that morning in Dallas, which
You know what?
proved that he was.
I don't need this bullshit. Y'all can fuck off.
He wasn't responsible for this himself, but we couldn't say at that point that he didn't have some involvement in setting this up.
And we were able to confirm that a short time later, he had met up with 2 workers in his construction business.
Sorry, let me close the door. Sorry, damn.
Jesus was John's right-hand man, kind of his job foreman, John's go-to person.
James said that he only been working for the company for
All right, but I'm
3
gonna turn this one up
weeks, so
too.
he had barely met John.
And he asked me, don't be late, whatever.
Don't be late to
8 o'clock.
Be
We
quiet.
meet up at Home Depot.
Which one?
In Dallas. That's what happened then.
I ain't even smoking or nothing right now. So I don't know what you're getting.
John showed up and everything. We started working. Yeah.
Both Jesus and James were
What?
very upfront, very cooperative, very talkative.
Permeate.
The stories matched.
Jesus seemed a little too laid back, just laughing and joking.
Wait, your
around in the
little
interview
bubba.
room. Some
You
of
want
that
your
stuff didn't
pepperoni?
make sense.
Want some pepperoni?
His
Oh,
fiance, who he had also known for several years,
He's like,
was
what you
just
doing?
killed.
What you doing, Daddy?
Jesus told us in his initial interview that he stayed in Dallas.
What
the
you
entire
doing,
morning
Daddy?
Laura was killed.
What you doing, Daddy?
His phone records showed otherwise.
Daddy.
What we found is about
Daddy.
8:26. He pinged the
Daddy.
tower in Rowlett.
And the time that his phone
Daddy.
cell tower in Rowlett, about a mile from Laura's
Daddy.
house, was right about the time that we believed that Laura was killed. We know
He's a
that
good boy.
James and Jesus were together that morning prior to them
He's a
meeting
good
up
boy.
with John. We
Yeah.
wanted to talk to James again.
He's such
To
a
let
good
James know
boy.
that we knew Jesus was lying to us.
You said this twice, that
He's
Manuel
a good
went
boy,
to
Bubba.
your house
Hmm.
about 8:30, 8:45. But I've got information that puts Manuel somewhere else.
He's my big boy. Who's my big boy?
That time frame.
You my big boy. You my big boy.
I have proof that he
Yeah.
was not at your place that early. That's what time he was at my place.
You like
I'm
boy?
telling you, I've analyzed everything.
You like
He was
boy?
not there.
Boy.
Still, even as we confronted him with facts that we knew, he continued to deny, but I classified him as a weak denial. We knew that he knew something about the murder.
They still haven't released it, James. No, I mean, no. I hope not. He was with me the whole time.
They were clearly concerned about James being at the police department for so many hours and what he was telling us. We were able to get in contact with a couple of his ex-girlfriends, a former roommate of his, and these people had direct knowledge about Jesus being hired by John to kill Laura.
Also, we were able to get a tip that Jesus was in Florida, and we provided that information to the United States Marshal Service.
Let me get it. That boy?
Hey, James. Jim Arnold with the Rangers.
James seemed to be very intrigued by the Texas Rangers. He really seemed to like dealing with the Rangers, like talking to the Rangers.
Well, I know that you dealt with some guys, but I'm a little bit different than them because really all I do is homicides.
You actually remind me of the legend of the Texas
Your
Rangers.
neck, little head, you know it.
Wild West
Yeah,
days.
yeah, small little head with a little brain. Yeah, little brain in it. Yeah, they get little brain. Yeah, I got a
Texas
little brain.
Rangers, they're
Yeah, I
elected
got a
in
little
Texas.
brain.
I think it
I
may
got a little
influence
brain.
on James
Yeah.
in order to give him the truth.
Doggy.
You see,
Doggy,
his
doggy.
arms are open. He's pretty relaxed.
Doggy, doggy.
And that's a good posture to move in, to draw in more of the truth.
Chip it. Chip it. I'm a chip it.
You're on the
I'm
edge
a
of the
chip
Grand
it.
Canyon, right?
I'm a chip it.
And what I'm gonna ask
Yeah,
you to
boy.
do is take a leap of
Yeah,
faith.
boy.
You trust me. All right. You're my friend, right? I'm trying to be your friend. I'm the best friend you have in the whole freaking world.
Arr.
Can I get your opinion?
Arr. Arr.
So how's it kick off?
Arr. Arr. Arr.
So first mentioned anything about this, I just regarded it. He shows up in the morning and we get in the car and go. The whole time, I'm like, I'm still thinking he's even when he gets there. He's down, he does his thing. I heard nothing.
And when he gets back in the car, what does he say to you?
Let's go.
That's what he said. Yeah, shot. Is that how I did it, or?
He's a shot. Right in the head.
Right, but it's pretty obvious that John ordered it.
Yeah.
Did you ever say how much John paid him for it?
He was boasting about something about 15 grand.
Once James finally did
Mo?
decide to tell us what he knew, we were to take John into custody as well.
Hey, come on. Have a seat.
Don't be sad. Get glad. Don't be sad. Get glad, boy.
This case, we needed John to confess.
Let me cut to the chase a little bit.
Arr.
This is a dumbass. All right? At the end of the day, you shouldn't hire a dumbass to do a job because he's going to screw it up. All right? If he doesn't screw it up, he's going to talk about it.
Doesn't hire the dumbass, that's my problem.
Do what?
I did not hire the dumbass. I did not pay him any money. That's my problem. I didn't know money was killed.
You got a good boy. You got a good chest. Yeah, you got good armpits. You got some little armpits. Look at them little pits. Them little pits. You that boy? Leave my little pits alone. Hey, it's my booty. It's my booty. It's my booty. Leave my butt alone. Yeah, there's your booty hole. There's your booty hole. There's your booty hole. Ooh, booty hole. Booty hole, booty hole, booty hole. Booty hole, booty hole, booty hole. Booty hole, booty hole.
Am I telling you to?
Yeah,
No,
boy.
I already know that
Yeah.
you did that. I'm
Booty
giving
hole
you
is
an
mine.
opportunity to
That
tell the
butthole
truth.
is mine, boy. My butthole. My butthole. Mine. It's mine. Arr. Arr. Give me that butt. Give me that butt. Arr.
John
He's
and
like, I'm gonna
Jesus
get you.
were
Arr.
sentenced to
I'm gonna
life in
get you.
prison without the
Arr.
possibility of parole. And because James
Give me a hug.
did decide to cooperate
Squeeze.
in this investigation, he was allowed
Yeah,
to plead
squeeze.
guilty to a
Squeeze.
murder charge instead of capital murder, and he was sentenced to 25 years.
Squeeze.
I was glad
I
we were
love
able
you.
to hold the individuals responsible,
I love
accountable for
you.
what they did.
I love you. Yes, I do. I love you, and you know it's true. Yes, I do. He like, boy. He like, come here, boy.
Didn't show
Give
up
me a
to
ball.
work, which was
Give
not
me a ball.
like him at all. He never
Come here.
missed work.
Come here.
So people
Come here,
started
Brandon.
calling, and of
Come
course
here.
they called me.
Come here.
Do you know where he's at?
Come here.
I was like,
Come
no.
here.
One of his
Come here.
friends
Brandon, come here.
started calling
Brandon,
around
come here.
and ended up calling the police.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Come on now. Come on. Give me some of that deep pressure. Come on. Give me some of that deep pressure therapy. Come
They
on.
did not notice any
Come
signs
on.
of forced entry. Everything
Brandon,
looked okay.
come on.
They eventually
Brandon,
contacted
come on.
Carl's parents, and they made entry to the house.
Come on. Little legs. Come on.
We found Carl located at the bottom of the stairway, covered in a tarp and a comforter. with
Come on.
gunshot wounds.
Come on. Come on.
How I
Come here.
found out
Come
was
here. Come here.
my oldest
Come here.
brother called me.
Come on. Come on. Come on
I'm
up here.
looking at the condition of the body. The
Come on up here.
estimate was he had been dead 2 or 3 days.
We discovered he had
Come on.
3 gunshot wounds, 2 to the torso and 1 to the head. And the
Come here.
gunshot wounds sustained to Carl's
here.
head was at close range.
Hey there, kid. And you. Get a little head. You know you get a little head. Give me, lay your little head there. Yeah, lay your little head down.
It was
Lay your little head.
obvious signs of
Leave my
foul
little
play,
head alone.
instantly apparent.
Hey, don't you blow on me. Yeah, we'll pause.
We were told
We'll
that Claudia
pause.
was
Yeah,
originally
we'll
from
pause.
Brazil.
We'll
In the
pause.
late 90s, she moved to the U.S.,
Yes, we'll
became a
pause.
naturalized U.S. citizen.
Come here.
Carl met Claudia
Granny,
through
come here.
Match.com
Granny, come
and
here.
dated her
Lay
for a
down.
couple
Come
months.
here. Come
And then
here.
for whatever reason, he
Come
decided
here.
to run off to Las Vegas and go get married. That was a little impulsive for him. 6 to 9 months into the marriage, he started expressing some concerns about being married to Claudia. He just said he wasn't happy with her and wanted to get away from her. I believe she was taking his money. That's what he believed. So he started talking to me about wanting to get divorced.
There were multiple efforts by the police and others to contact Claudia Harry. They could not connect with her.
Nobody really knew where she was, and so she was quickly a person of interest. Within a matter of a couple months, we had Claudia located in Brazil. But based on Brazilian law and the Brazilian Constitution, they did not allow for their extradition of citizens to a foreign country, even if they're suspected of committing a crime such as homicide.
So the US government, they just ran into a brick wall. Brazil just didn't want to cooperate. Claudia was just living freely, out in the open. Her belief was Brazil would never extradite her, so she just got away with murder. I was looking at a couple hours almost every night, corresponding with the embassy. I just really wasn't willing to give up.
That family never let go to the idea that anybody could get away with killing their son, their brother. Our case was in the late 90s. Claudia becomes an American citizen. She signs her documents taking allegiance with the United States of America and denying her loyalty to Brazil. That got us in the door. I said, I don't want her Brazilian ass, I want her American ass.
It was a huge relief to get her back. It was like a big block off my shoulders.
Out of the blue, just mid-flight, she says, a wife doesn't kill her husband without a good reason. Put those of us on the plane in a really tenuous or unique position. We don't know enough about the case to question her, but on the other hand, we have no legal obligation to make her stop talking. And she spent the next couple hours of this flight telling the story that she wanted to have heard.
it's my understanding from what I hear that while you were sitting on the plane right up here, you gave you guys a statement about what happened. That
Yeah, partial.
partial statement. Okay, great. But I kind of want to start at the beginning. I want to go back to March 15th, 2007.
Okay, you're gonna start from the end.
Well, yeah, well, the beginning of the end. Yeah. Kind of, I
Start
think,
backwards. It's gonna start backwards.
I-
It's not fair.
I think, in fairness, I think what you had already talked to Tony and I about on the plane, I think that would be a very good place to start.
As soon as we got married, but I didn't want to be married to him. All of a sudden, he was a different person. He scared the life out of me. He treated me very, very bad. He was like very aggressive. He beat me. It was torture. He tortured me.
During the interview, Claudia was claiming to be a battered wife, which we found no evidence of.
What she was saying didn't match what the detectives were hearing from any of his friends, family, former girlfriends. In those cases where you have that type of abuse, there is always some type of corroboration. In her case, there was zero.
I was pregnant, and he got very, very angry. And he went crazy. He said, I never want to be a father. I never want to have children. I want a wife. I said, but I'm 4 years old. I can't. I'm not going to get an abortion. You won't get an abortion.
One of the things that I noticed right away was how rehearsed everything she said seemed to be. There were a lot of statements that she made in the interview room that were just verbatim, just word for word what she had said on the plane. Even some of her hand movements. It was like she had been practicing this story, and that struck me as really odd.
After that, things start spiraling out of control, right?
Yeah. I had a plan. Doesn't want to accept this pregnancy. I'm going to kill myself. I bought a gun. I went to firing range, right? Because I want to shoot. They have to understand about the boys.
I can't say that I've really been made aware ever of somebody who bought a gun or obtained a gun to commit suicide that went to the shooting range and practice. Here's the thing from the aspect of an interview. Sometimes a lie is more powerful than the truth.
We just had to let her keep talking because the more that she does that, the worse it is for her.
So he got home, and I said to him, forget it. I'm not going to have an abortion. And he grabbed me. He threw me on bed, and he grabbed my throat. I just defended myself. He was very angry, and I already had this plan to commit suicide. He said, that's a very good idea, but just do me a favor. Go to the basement to do that, because you're going to splash my paintings. You're going to splash blood all over my paintings.
I mean, basically, he just told you that his paintings are more important than you.
Yeah.
So you're pissed.
Yes.
What happens next?
Well, what happened next is that I got very angry, and I got up real fast and I shot.
Shot what?
I shot at him, and I was lying down.
Come back over here, please. Please.
Yeah, I was
please.
going. I got up real fast, and I shot at him. He wasn't too far away. My plan was never, not for 1 single minute, to kill anybody. Of myself, swear to God, there was not for a single minute I thought about it.
It was relief. She confessed to shooting him. Now Mike could ask the tough questions.
I guess probably the simplest question that we didn't ask. Instead of killing him, would it be easier to just get a divorce?
I tried. He wouldn't let me.
And what was his story? What was his answer?
I beg you, won't change. I love you. I love you. I can live with you, most beautiful woman in the world. I love you. I swear I'm going to change.
I was sitting there thinking, how could anybody believe this? Right from the beginning, it felt like theatrics. Intelligence and common sense, and that when she walked out of that room, that she probably felt like a winner.
My personal belief is I think she wasn't real pleased that he had rejected her. He wanted to get divorced from her. I don't think she was used to that. And I think she was vindictive.
Claudia was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 28 years because that was actually one of the stipulations to the extradition.
You cannot overestimate the value of interviews and confessions.
I got very angry and I got up real fast and shocked.
It's instrumental to our convictions. The confession brought out her lies, which were contradicted by the evidence, which in my opinion is the best kind of evidence to have.
I was relieved. I don't take cases personally at all, ever. But this case was so different that I was happy to see some closure for the Harry family.
Sheriff's office.
Hi, ma'am. This is Scott Sunford today at 324, 327, and 328. I had 3 census strips, and I've been out of town with family for a funeral. My wife was home.
Okay.
I just got home, and the board that I have over my back door has been broken. So somebody has forced their way in, and I haven't heard back from my wife. I need an officer here now.
Okay. And what's your wife's name?
Desiree Sunford.
When I rolled up to the residence, I saw somebody had their spotlight on the house, and he had a pistol drawn. That person was later identified as Scott Sunford. And I asked him what was going on. Why didn't you go in? He said, I don't know what's in there. It's a very odd answer to give. I entered the house, and I remember walking down the hallway in the first room to my left, and there were bullet casings on the floor. To the left, I could see the body of Desiree Sunford. Whoever shot her wanted her dead. At that point, I went ahead and exited the house and walked over to Mr. Sunford and told him that there was a deceased woman in the house. We believe it's your wife. I remember telling him, I'm terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. He had a stone cold look on his face. It seemed like it meant nothing to him. And I told this to the detectives when they arrived on scene. I think this guy knows something about this. Either he did it or he knew who did.
He was a 31-year-old veteran in the National Guard. He actually worked at the local training center for the military base here in Yakima County. Scott informed us that he had gone down to the Tri-Cities, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours south of Yakima, to attend a funeral. And he attended the funeral Saturday afternoon, and then he had called Desiree, said he was going to spend the night down there.
You mentioned that you got a bunch of alarm hits on through your phone at like 3 in the morning.
He received texts from the alarm company saying something had gone wrong or something tripped the alarm.
Okay, and so why not go in the house and check things out and make sure she's okay?
Because I was afraid.
What were you afraid of?
When I saw that back door, I just couldn't decide whether I could deal with what I may or may not see.
It didn't make sense that a husband would stand back and not go into the house to see if his wife's hurt or injured.
You said you were in the military?
Yeah, 13 years.
13 years? Did you get deployed in combat areas?
Yeah, we had a couple deployments.
Where at?
Iraq.
Iraq. Well, I'm just thinking, you're a big guy. You're what, 6'4"?
Somewhere up there.
6'4", 250. You've got a firearm on you. You've been in combat. I mean, you've done some serious that most people will never do.
So if anyone's gonna be willing to go charge it in the house and make sure their wife's okay, it would seem to me that it would be you.
In my 30-year career, I have never seen anything like this. For a guy his size, stature, and armed with a .45 to wait for a police officer to show up to check on the welfare of his wife.
He's understanding everything you have to say, but he's just not showing any emotion, no anger, no sorrow. It's just not right.
You left Yakima about 08:30 on Saturday and drove down to the Tri-Cities. And then you stayed at your dad's in Kennewick.
No, I actually stayed with a friend, but I see.
What's the friend's name?
Oh, her name's Paige. She's a mutual friend.
Was it just a platonic friendship, or did you have an actual relationship with Paige?
You know, I shouldn't go there because it's kind of rude, but well, Des didn't want me to say anything to anybody, but at one point, her and Paige had a little thing going for a while there, a little experiment.
Okay, so it was Desiree and Paige who had the sexual relationship.
Yeah.
But not you and Paige? Or
We all did.
Sometimes you and Paige too.
Honestly, we all did.
We're in the beginning of this investigation. As we learn more and more, we were finding out there was some type of a love triangle. Paige Blades was a 23-year-old mistress to Scott Sundford.
So it sounds like you and Desiree had a pretty open relationship.
Generally,
No?
Generally, no. Just with her.
Just with her, there was a special relationship with Paige.
Yeah.
We felt that we were not getting the full story. It's a relationship between a mistress and a gentleman, and that his wife is dead. Okay, how much is he involved, or how much she involved, or are they both involved? We suspected that Paige maybe was giving him an alibi, that he maybe was not there that evening, but his phone was not anywhere near the residence at the time of the homicide. Even though he's still our number one person of interest, it just wasn't connecting him to the crime at the time. A tip came through the local Crime Stoppers telephone network, and the person told us that the name of the shooter was a Marty Grismer, and that he had killed Desiree Sundford. We had not heard that name anywhere in the investigation. We needed to confirm how this person that was calling us knew about this stuff, and it turned out that it was Paige Blade's phone number. If she knew this information, why didn't she call us directly? Things are just not adding up. Paige told us that Marty is a friend of hers, that they work together, and he kind of takes care of her.
Marty was my best friend. Marty and I started dating for a little bit until he found out about Scott, and I told him I couldn't see him anymore. He's the one that got me the house. He bought my car outright in cash. He pays my insurance. He's done my grocery shopping. He's taken very well care of me.
At one point, I believe she told us that he just worshiped the ground she walks on, like he was obsessed with her.
He asked me if I wanted him to take care of this new woman like he did Des. And I asked him what he was talking about. And apparently he decided that if the baby was Scott's like it was supposed to be, then Desiree would cause issues. Oh my God.
We were skeptical about what type of information she was providing. Is she throwing him under the bus, or is she directing it differently for us to follow? The sheriff's office received a phone call from one of the other managers who was cleaning where Marty had his office and found a bag of gun parts. So our team immediately drove to Moses Lake, recovered the gun parts, and took them directly to the crime lab to have them examined. It was determined that this barrel was on the gun used to kill Desiree Sunford. The bullets that we recovered from her autopsy came from that barrel. We had evidence in our hands that gave us enough to arrest him on the spot, but we'd really like to have a confession.
What's your relationship with Paige?
It's been complicated over the years. I mean, she was the best man at my wedding. So, I mean, she was my best friend for a while there.
Were you two involved in a sexual relationship at one time?
Not exactly, no. We just fooled around a bit on the early on, but I was taking care of things for her financially. Fixing up her house, fixing the plumbing, finding a place to live, moving her butt in there. Moving stuff out of storages for her when the bills were running out on it. I tried to be there for her because I wanted a relationship with her. Like a moth to a flame, I kept going back and trying to help her, even after her own mother told me you probably shouldn't be her friend.
Did you ever offer to kill Desiree Sunford for Paige?
No, I haven't. I've never offered to kill anyone for anything. It's not my nature.
Have you ever discussed killing her with Paige?
No.
Did she ever ask you to kill Desiree Sunford?
No.
Paige is saying that you are the one who shot and killed Desiree Sunford. She said that you confessed that to her. And she came in and gave a taped statement to that effect.
Can't believe that she's doing that. I mean, didn't kill anyone. She pinned the on me.
You work at Basic American Foods, and they said that you were suspended from work for having gun parts.
Yeah.
At work. Can you tell me about that? What kind of gun parts are we talking about?
I had a gun bill that I left there.
A gun barrel?
Yeah.
Okay. Where it gets even worse for you is this gun barrel that we've been talking about. That's the gun barrel that was in the gun that killed Desiree Sunford. I've already retrieved that gun barrel from Basic American Foods, and I've already had the ballistic analysis done on it. And the slugs that were pulled from Desiree's body came from that gun. After everything you've done for her, after all the money, blood, sweat, tears, and love that you gave to her, and she turned around and you over.
I know.
An Alfred plea is he's not admitting to the crime. He's not confessing to the crime. He's just saying that the state, which should be the prosecution, has enough evidence to get a conviction.
The medical center director contacted our 24/7 duty phone number and indicated that the facility had reviewed multiple instances going back to January of 2018 and had identified inpatients who had suffered severe low blood sugar, all of which, with the exception of one, had passed away shortly thereafter.
The victims in this case were all elderly males. They all had various health conditions. However, the clinical expectation was that they were all supposed to be discharged. Death did not appear to be imminent.
Some of the medical doctors found it unusual, first of all, that there were multiple non-diabetic patients that were dying of these severely low blood sugars.
There was no logical reason why their blood sugar plummeted to such dangerously low levels.
Within a day of opening their investigation, they contacted the local FBI office and we got involved.
Through time cards, work schedules, and other records, that helped narrow down the possible list of subjects or suspects that could be involved in the case.
It quickly became apparent there were a total of 4 individuals at the hospital out of 1,200 employees who were there at each of the dates for these events.
Rita Mays was an uncertified nursing assistant who worked in the medical surgical unit that they referred to as Ward 3A. She was responsible for taking the vitals of patients, intake and outtake, as well as taking glucometer or finger stick readings of blood sugar levels of patients.
It is 8:17 p.m. Special Agent Earl Gilliam here with Miss
Rita Mays.
What's your title?
I'm the nurse's aide. In the initial interview, you really just want her to do as much talking as possible so then go back later and impeach the information that she gave us.
Our team was directly across the hall to just listen in. We were putting the pieces together to see what we could make of what she had to say.
You ever administer insulin to patients?
No,
Not at all.
no. The aides are not to give any type of meds.
And what about the med room? Do you go to the med room where they keep the medications?
The only time that I've gone in there is when I've been with a nurse.
She denied being in the medication room alone, which we knew was contradictory with what witnesses told us previously. And what's important there is that the insulin was stored in the medication room.
Some of Rita Mays' coworkers on 3A had various accounts that stuck out to us as far as red flags. She more or less did not act normal when compared to the rest of her coworkers. There were some instances where she held patients' hands while crying bedside with them as well too, which a lot of the staff indicated to us was abnormal.
I'm not going to find that what you're telling me, I'm not going to find that part of it's not true or all of it's not true.
No, sir. I will swear on it. Swear to it.
And you
I will
don't know.
swear to it. If we had to go to court, I would swear to it.
Would you be able to take a polygraph concerning this and pass it?
I will not take a polygraph.
Why not?
Why not?
I'm asking.
Because I have a torn ACL and I have constant pain and I wouldn't pass it.
Okay. The pain would make you not pass it.
Yes, sir.
We learned that Rita May's husband had been in jail during the times in which the murders took place. Rita May's husband would call her almost every morning after her overnight shift ended.
What? Was it? Oh, yeah.
During some of these calls with her husband, Rita indicated her struggles with her interactions with these patients.
At 1 o'clock in the morning, I had to take over sitting one of the one-on-ones, and the one I was sitting with, I wanted to freaking strangle. We couldn't keep him in bed. They had given him a Haldol, and that didn't work, so they gave him 2 shots of Haldol, and he still was wound up.
I don't know what it is about whenever you're
When she returned the following shift after having placed that call and made those comments, the same patient suffered low blood sugars again, indicative of this patient being administered insulin 2 different occasions.
okay, better. Oh, no.
Nice to meet you. My name's Carrie. Hi, Carrie. We had a special agent from the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit come out.
They offered for Special Agent Kerry Robbins to participate and to conduct the interview.
We had been prepping her for it, just one interviewer in the room.
My understanding is, did you win the Nurse of the Year award? The year before last, Nurse's Aide. Yeah, and I've heard that. And I've heard that you're the go-to person. You do exemplary work.
The interviewer does pay compliments to Maze that would really allow Maze to agree with her and engage her in talking. It builds a little bit of rapport, but it also makes Rita feel that she has the power in the conversation.
For whoever may have had a role involvement in this, do you think there's ever a justification? I don't live lives. That would be crazy to do something like that. That's
I don't care.
basically drinking blood. And that's not, that's not a good thing. Not at all. I'm here to listen and to want to understand you and what happened. Are you saying I did something? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I didn't do anything.
I don't know.
Whatever you did doesn't change who you are. It doesn't. You're still that person. I didn't do anything. There's a lot of people saying.
What are you going down there for?
Tell me what happened. Truth.
Huh?
After today, I cannot make that promise to you. That you'll be sitting across from me and listening.
You can see she's punched her shoulders and drawn her arms across her body as pretty defensive. So to me, I think she was panicking a little bit.
Meryl, now I need a lawyer.
No, you don't get none. You let me go to sleep. Let me fuck it up. Man, it ain't my fault. Damn it. God damn it. God damn it. It ain't my fault. Damn it. God, this is unfair treatment.
Right after the interview, there was a major payoff because within a few hours of that end of the second interview, she actually buys a book called I'm Dead Now What? Indicating that she's having potentially some suicidal thoughts. Why? Because she's just been told she is the prime suspect in all of these. It almost gave us more fuel to figure this out. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, boy. Like, damn it. Damn it, boy. Damn it. Damn it. Fuck this shit. Come here, pussy. I'll fuck you up.
Between the second interview in August of 2018 and October of 2019, the bulk of the investigative work was complete during that time period. The investigation involved a review of hundreds of thousands of VA employee emails, years worth of internet browsing activity, a review of hundreds of hours of recorded phone calls, a review of other electronic media and electronic evidence as well.
What we learned at that point in the investigation was that Rita would talk with other staff members on Facebook Messenger, and they would, in real time, be discussing patients and what was going on the ward. And Rita was referring to some of our victims. What happened to this patient who was in this room, and what about this patient? So she was following up to see, essentially, did they live or did they die?
The interviews were important. Despite not obtaining a confession, there was no eyewitness, no surveillance camera footage, no murder weapon, no DNA, no fingerprint.
Damn.
Therefore, the culmination of the interviews strengthened the investigation.
Although we did not get the verbal answers and the confessions that we were looking for, just to be able to tap into the mindset of Rita was just as important.
911, the location of your emergency. Hey, 306, 306, 2 miles drive. My boyfriend's unresponsive. He has some poke wounds inside of himself, and he's late. I put him in the shower to revive him. He's unrevivable. Please help me. Please, please. Tell me the address. Tell me the address. What do I do? Help you. No, I need my boyfriend. What happened? I don't know. I came home in so much blood. Yes. I need my man.
Okay, come here.
Yes.
Walk with me.
Oh my God. No, baby. Oh my gosh, please.
Ryan Lamb was uncontrollably emotional, screaming, yelling, crying, just wailing. They determined that for safety's sake, he needed to be handcuffed and removed from the scene.
Ain't there. She ain't there.
Please. I just came home.
Damn, I can't hardly eat this.
As the police entered the unit, they could see blood on the doorstep and on the landing. They said that the apartment was in disarray. It appeared as if there had
Well,
been
eat
some
the,
sort of
eat the last two
altercation.
pieces, cause I can't
There was
eat
blood
it
on
all
the
like
bed,
this.
blood
Just,
on the floor.
I'll
You
have
could
you
see
get me
footmarks and
2 pieces for
fingerprints
pie.
on the
That
linoleum.
last box in there, it's a 4 cheese.
Once they got into the
That ain't the
bathroom,
same as
they
all the
found
others. I don't know
Ryan
why
Nixon
you
in the
got one of them
bathtub
damn
in a
4 cheeses.
semi-seated position with the water running. I think he was only clothed
No,
in his
one of them's
underwear.
4 cheese.
Mr. Lamb had reported that Mr. Nixon had poke holes in him. We later learned that those were the result of being stabbed with a pair of scissors that we found in the residence. Ultimately, it was determined that Ryan Nixon was deceased.